I said, one of the things that happened was for the last 4 weeks, you went kind of dark on me. Do you recall what I did to bring you back to the table? And he said, I'm not really sure where you're going.
And then what happened over time is our SDRs got more and more skeptical of those intent signals.
It's an omni-channel approach. And prospecting is about finding the channel that the buyer is in.
And so I think it's the organizations that are really leveraging that technology and still leveraging the human element that are the ones that are really, really accelerating over others.
The Modern Selling Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Modern Selling Podcast. And yes, I bring you episode 301. This is our 301st episode, and I couldn't be more excited to have an amazing thought leader. And I love, you guys know how I feel about having underrepresented groups. I've got a woman, a female chief revenue officer from a very well-known company, Nooks, Hannah Willson. Welcome, Hannah, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this, and congrats on 300 plus episodes. That's incredible.
Thank you so much. It has been an amazing long journey with the Modern Selling Nation, following and listening, top 1.5% of all podcasts globally. I think it's because of the longevity of the show. How about that? I think it's because of that we're in that segment, but it's been great. It's been fun, really getting to know and make great friends. And some of my best advisors and some of my best customers are folks that have joined me on the show, and it's been really awesome to do that. But that having been said, I'm excited to have you. Hannah, do me a favor, talk a little bit about your background. Folks don't necessarily know you. You're obviously the CRO at Nooks. Tell us a little bit about Nooks and how you got here. And then I've got a very important question that I want to ask you.
Okay. I've been in sales for about 20 years. I spent the first 10 years of my career at a large publicly traded company. I've spent the previous 10 years at startups across the Bay Area. And so I've been fortunate to have been in this space for quite a long time. I'm currently at Nooks. I joined fairly recently. If for those of you who don't know Nooks is a comprehensive AI platform for everything outbound related. So we have a parallel dialer that allows you to make hundreds of calls a day really quickly, get tons of connects. We have AI bots that help your reps coach and get better over time. And we also have an AI prospector tool, which allows you to automate list building and research and find those best accounts. So comprehensive AI platform for everything outbound related. As I mentioned, I started at Nooks fairly recently, but I was actually a longtime customer of Nooks before I came on board. I was actually one of the first customers, and it drove so much pipeline for us at my previous company, Modern Health. Was really excited to come and work on the inside.
That's so cool. Customer becomes the leader of the sales organization. Congratulations on the success. And excited because I've had Nooks on my radar screen for a long time, namely because we actually have been the digital sales prospecting tool, right? All around LinkedIn engagement, AI writing, and we're super complementary in terms of what Nooks does and what you bring to the market, especially with your superpower speed dialer, combining those things together. So it's a very complementary in terms of the two organizations and what we bring to the market. With that in mind, I have a very special question, and I ask this of all my guests, so get ready. I'm looking for something juicy, Hannah. You got to give me something juicy, but or whatever your heart compels you to deliver. Tell us something nobody knows about you, even if they're looking at any or all of your social profiles.
Hmm. That's a good question. I don't know if I have anything too juicy for you, but one thing I've actually never put on any profile is that I was a collegiate swimmer. Um, the reason being, I only swam for 1 year. I was a walk-on. I wasn't that good. So I'm like, I can't really brag about this, but actually, if I think about like what's actually helped me in sales, swimming is so similar. I mean, you're doing thousands and thousands of laps a week to shave like tenths of a second off. And, pipeline generation sales is kind of the same thing. I mean, you're doing probably thousands of activities to get one opportunity in the door. So yeah, as I think about all the things I've done, maybe that experience was actually the most helpful for being in sales and being a sales leader.
No doubt, there are so many parallels that we could draw from being involved in athletics to sales. And I think you hit the probably the biggest one, which is repetition, repetition, repetition. Practice makes perfect. And also keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, just to have incremental progress. And you said it is a tenth of a second, right? Thousands of laps for, you said a hundredth of a second or a tenth of a second?
Hundreds of a second in many cases, yeah.
Yeah, just to shave off a hundredths of a second, and that's for us, whether you're making that phone call or whether you're learning how to engage correctly or whether you're practicing, on that right perfect message, it's that right there, that hundredth of a second, that hundredth of a play, if you would, that can make all the difference at the right time.
Yep. And you always see the best performers do that. They're doing all the little things to get better every day. And some of them lead to something, some of them don't, but it ends up leading to a lot of success at the end.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Well, given the fact that Nooks and Vengreso have such deep focuses on what I call the pre-hello to the hello phase. So if I think about the sales spectrum, you've got pre-hello to hello, and then you've got hello to close, right? And we've got a solid focus right here in pre-hello to hello. It doesn't mean that you can't utilize Nooks in the hello to close, especially when you start circling and socially surrounding and engaging with multiple buyers, right? But this pre-hello to hello, I feel like we are the 800-pound gorillas when it comes to prospecting. And this is one of the biggest challenges that I hear from every CRO and CSO that I talk to. It is all about pipeline development, all about pipeline development. It is a huge, massive problem. And so, what I'd love for you to do is, look, you've coached multiple sales teams, you've been on the customer side of Nooks, and as everybody knows on the Modern Selling Nation, I don't do pitches for products. But what I do want to talk about is the thought leadership about some of the biggest shifts that you see happening in what I would call modern pipeline development, and how should sales teams and CROs be adapting?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's so hard. It's probably one of the hardest parts of sales. It's always been one of the hardest parts of sales, and I think it's gotten even harder recently. I mean, the ways that we used to do it, I don't know, 2 years ago, 5 years ago is not working today. Where the days of sending tons of emails and, it's a numbers game and getting responses in and booking meetings, that's just not working anymore. And it might even be getting harder because there's, so much automation around emails right now. There's the, rise of the AI SDR and, emails are becoming more and more pervasive. So I think what the best organizations are doing is they're finding a different way. And to me, it's really exciting. I mean, sales as a whole is just changing so much right now, but especially top of funnel and pipeline building. Like we have technology that we never had before. I mean, I feel like you probably feel the same way. I mean, we have more advances in the past 6 months or a year than we had in the past 20 years. And so I think it's the organizations that are really leveraging that technology and still leveraging the human element that are the ones that are really, really accelerating over others.
So let's drill down on this human element, right? Um, I get emails all the time. Hey, Mario, I noticed that you're in San Francisco. Hopefully the Giants, are, or the Niners, it's too bad for the record or the season, or saw that it was 75 degrees out there today. Hopefully you're enjoying the sun and, taking time to work. I read them and I'm like, hmm, hyper personalized or AI bot that is able to figure out certain levels of detail and start customizing. Are we talking about like when we bring in human element, drill down on that, Hannah, for us. What does that mean for the CRO today in terms of pipeline development?
Yeah. I mean, I think it just gets back to like you really have to think about what can technology, what can a machine do better, and what can a human, at least still, still for now, do better. And when I think about that, I mean, it's all of the things about humans having conversations with other humans, understanding it's the tone of your voice, it's the understanding, it's, obviously using technology to pull all the research together so that you're prepared for a call, but it's how you ask questions. It's what are the questions that you ask, how you build off conversations. And that is still so critical and probably even more important in today's world where you get all these generic emails, hard to figure out if it's written by AI or it is highly personalized. And so I think those conversations are actually becoming even more important from a human perspective.
So I got one for you. This one was a really good one. Subject was BYU. I thought, BYU. Okay, I'm gonna open this. Says church members in Latin America. Apparently, they thought I was Latin. Good guess. All right, Mario Martinez. Yep, good guess. Recently, we partner with BYU Pathway, and this has been a huge milestone for us to do that. If you could spare 10 minutes of your time, I would love to explain to you our idea and see how you could help us. Let me know. I would love to talk more about it.
Oh, oh no.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh no. Oh no. I'm not sure if you're selling to me. I don't know if you're asking me for help. I don't. And first off, the grammar. Oh my gosh, like that's really bad. All right. So clearly that's an oh no situation, right? And in this case, I have nothing to do with BYU. I'm glad you appeal to church members in Latin America. I don't know what the simulation is or similarities are between me, Mario Martinez, Latino in Latin America with BYU. I don't know, but nonetheless, feedback when we see these types of emails.
I know. I don't know if I've heard one like that recently. But obviously you're just, there's no action taken. I think a lot of these, AI SDRs or automated emails, they promise a lot, but they're actually really, really hard to get right. And so that's also why it's so important to ensure that your sales team is like having a lot of conversations and talking to people. And I do think there's a place for technology, of course, and it can make humans a lot more efficient. But yeah, that's a pretty good example of technology has not taken over all of our roles quite yet.
For sure, no doubt. And you hit the nail on the head. Email is almost everything comes in as junk. I spend about 25 minutes in the morning just deleting and unsubscribing from junk, right? So let's go back to the cold call. You've talked about in our pregame show, you talked about a calling culture. What does that practically look like inside a sales organization? And how do you get buy-in from maybe the reps who maybe cold call averse?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us are cold call averse. I there's few people that run to a cold call. And I think part of the reason is if you think about it, like let's say you sit down to your desk and you say, I'm gonna make some cold calls. Maybe you spend 20 minutes researching who you're gonna call, you learn something about them, you find their numbers, and then you sit down and dial. Let's say you make 20 calls, 10 numbers are wrong, 5 numbers don't pick up, maybe one person picks up. You've put in 2 hours of work and maybe one person picks up and then they hang up on you. And so then you come away from that and you're like, "Why would I spend 2 hours doing this? Like, that's brutal. I had to do all this work. I then had to call them. Like, I'm not doing this again." And so now I think what's so cool is that there's technology that makes it easier, like Nooks and others, where you can make literally hundreds of calls and just get in touch with the right person and have more conversations. And then, at the end of the day, you feel actually productive because you've set meetings and you've had conversations and whatnot. But I think so that's sort of on the new wave of technology and how it can help. But I think in terms of building a calling culture, I mean, it kind of comes back to basics. And I think about when I started my sales career 20 years ago, we're all in a room, we're making it fun. You get someone that hangs up on you, and then, the person across the desk from you is like, oh, this person hung up on me too. You're kind of laughing about it. You have, a tally mark on the whiteboard about who's making the most calls. And, you just kind of like harken back to those fun days of sales and revenue and being in an office. And I think you still need to do those things. And now, teams are more and more remote. So you have to find ways virtually of doing that. And at Modern Health, for example, when we first rolled out Nooks, we had really good sales leaders that would also make things fun. They'd run games, they'd do campaigns, they'd be engaging with their team every day. And so I think in terms of building a calling culture, it's both those things. We have new technology today, but then as a leader, are you making it fun? Because it tends not to be a very fun part of sales often.
No doubt. Uh, when we think about the channels, we have calling, email, LinkedIn, video, SMS, and events. I may have, you know what? I did miss one. Direct mail and gift marketing. So there you go. Right. So as thinking about your sales organization and your BDR channel, my guess is your BDR channel is not producing 100% of all your leads, correct?
Correct.
All right. So you're like everybody else where your AEs, while they're should be focused on the hello to close, they have probably some portion, 30, 40% of their time that they should be self-sourcing deals and bringing deals to the table. Is that fair to say?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, great. So when we think about all these channels that I just rattled off, which channels do you find are the most rewarding for focusing on as enablement teams and as CROs? Is it calling, emails, LinkedIn, video, SMS, events, direct mail, gift marketing? Which one do you think? Which one is the best? Or is it a combination?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a combination. Like there's no one size fits all approach, and it's different based on the kind of organization you have, based on where your buyers are. For some companies, it's all about event marketing, going to the places where your customers are, having conversations with them. Um, but I was pretty surprised. Like a couple years ago, we looked at all of the opportunities that we were booking. This was at my previous company, and I was just wondering like what the lead source was on those opportunities. And actually, 60% had come from a cold call, which I was kind of taken aback by. I was like, wait, cold calling's back? For so long, we've just been so dependent on sending so many emails and following up on campaigns. And those are obviously still really important channels. But I think if you can put those together with a calling motion, that's really where the magic is.
Love that. All right. Cold call. Give me your next top two, top three channels for a rep.
Well, for us, I mean, the events is still huge, and I think it goes back to the in person. I mean, if you can get your event strategy right, and you can go to the events where your prospects are, and you can have those conversations, and you can follow up in a meaningful way, that is really important. Obviously, LinkedIn is incredibly important as well. Especially for companies like us who sell to other sales leaders and that's where our customers live. And so I think having a really good strategy on social is also super important.
So top three you listed are cold call events and LinkedIn. Interesting. I saw a stat. 18% of buyers said they would rather speak to a sales rep at an event.
Mm.
16% said through LinkedIn. And it was, I think, about 14 or 16% through a cold call.
Ah, interesting.
And it was interesting that the stats came in that events were the highest ranked opportunity, and then calling was on there, and then social was on there, not email, not any other channel that we rattled off. And I started thinking about that. What are the similarities between an event, a cold call, and a social engagement? And the similarity between those three was that it was actual real human to human engagement. Real human to human. Now, are there tools that automate LinkedIn connection requests? Yes, I hate them. Should you have them? No. Automate, liking and auto commenting? Yes, I hate them. Those are bad. But if you think about the crux, it's all about human to human engagement, and that was interesting for me to hear that, and it's interesting that you are mentioning that as well.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's more important than it's ever been. And I mean, it's exciting for me because I feel like it also elevates the sales profession. Gone are the days when we're just spending time, crafting the perfect email or doing all this research. Like, we're actually now having to held a higher bar to be able to have these powerful human connections.
And we talk about AI in the sales process. Yes, are there the AI SDRs? Are there things that can automate processes? Yes. But here's where I think what's going to win: human assisted AI. Meaning, I'm going to get details and data and intent signals, or I'm going to have something that helps me write something. I'm going to have something that reads something and says, here's what you could say. And then you have the ability to now edit and put your flavor and your tone to it. That's really where I think it's going to count, because that's the human to human engagement. With that in mind, let's talk about some of the intent signals. Oftentimes, people just begin to make lists of people who are target ICPs. Intent signals have evolved over time, no doubt. In your experience, what's the difference between the old school top down intent models versus the modern AI driven approach? And what does that mean for sales teams, and how should they be using it?
Yeah. I mean, as I think about the first generation of intent signals, largely it was, myself or our head of marketing sitting in a room thinking, okay, what are the intent signals that we think are going to be valuable and meaningful? And so we would say, okay, we came out with this great white paper last week. If someone clicks on our white paper, let's give them 2 points. Or if someone does this activity, let's give them 3 points. And that was, I mean, that was good V1. It was better than what we had before. But I think the challenge is over time, we weren't using that information to learn and get better. Like we would kind of look back at the end of the quarter and we would say, do we want to switch the model? Are those really the intent signals that lead to qualified opportunities? But it was more just us in a room sort of hypothesizing and thinking, and we would use some data. We wouldn't always refresh it. And then what happened over time is our SDRs got more and more skeptical of those intent signals. So an SDR would get, a hot lead from us and they wouldn't follow up on it. They'd rather follow up on a colder one. And we're like, why? We served up this high intent lead. And so I think what's so powerful about this next generation of technology and intent signals is that it learns over time. It uses AI to understand what are the intent signals, really deep and rich intent signals in terms of like, is someone posting about something on LinkedIn that's relevant? Is there something on their website that's relevant? Is there something in the news that, why this company right now would need your product? Like very rich, much, much richer and deeper intent signals. The things that our great SDRs were doing in the past, but took a ton of time. And now what this new tech wave of technology can do is learn which are those intent signals that actually yield high quality opportunities that are going to convert at a better rate. And then it serves them up to the sales team, and the sales team has much more trust in them because they know that those are the ones that yield higher quality pipeline. So, yeah, I mean, this is the future of pipeline building, and I think it's just so exciting where we're going.
Very interesting. And when you think about some of these intent signals, give me an idea of the difference between what we used to get versus what we can get now. And I actually, in this question, I really want you to use Nooks as the example. Yeah. And talk about some of the things that you guys are serving up because I think it's quite unique and special. Again, Modern Selling Nation knows that I'm not pitching or first off, I don't use Nooks. I just know of them. So that's the first important thing. But I think this is powerful because there's some real key differentiators there. So talk a little bit about the tech, please.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I mean, as I think about like intent signals of the past, it was like, was there someone broadly that maybe clicked on your website? Or was there someone that downloaded a white paper or engaged in a marketing event? And all of those signals are important, but they're just one small piece. There's more intent signals out there. And basically, what the Nooks AI prospector technology does is instantaneously, it can look across all of the intent signals. We have, hundreds of intent signals that are relevant to any company. So let's say like someone changed jobs and you can see on their LinkedIn profile that, they've changed jobs or they've moved into a new role. For us, we're targeting, heads of SDR. So we can see if someone took on a leadership role. We can see if they came from a company that, they had previously purchased our product. So they're probably more inclined to purchase it again. We can look if it's a public company, we can look at their 10K report, see if it's something in there that talks about pipeline building. And so these are really rich and deep intent signals that yield higher quality pipeline for sure.
And so when a rep gets that, give me an example, Hannah, of how, whether it be an AE or a BDR, how they would utilize that data in making a phone call.
Yeah, great question. I think, making a phone call is the first step. So when I was at my previous company, we tried a lot of these tools. I think we were an early adopter of a bunch of this new AI technology and intent signals. The problem was is we would get a list of accounts, but it wouldn't live in the place where our reps were working. And so it'd be like off to the side. It might be in our CRM system. And so if you're a rep, you're trying to look at all these different places and then you have to reach out and you might have to go to 10 or 15 different places to get information before you make one call. What the Nooks platform does is it pulls everything together. And so if I'm a rep, I just have one place to go. I sit down, I have my virtual sales floor, my manager is in there coaching me, I have the automated dialer in there, and I have the leads that come in. And then when I make the call, it pulls up a very brief summary, but very, targeted and insightful in terms of what that person cares about. So it'll just, the phone rings, the person picks up, and right there I can see this person recently switched jobs. They used Nooks at their previous company. They are using a competitor now, but that competitor contract is up in a month. And so I can make the most of that human interaction that I have with the prospect.
And then as an example, if I was an SDR, and say you were a previous customer of ours, you've now changed jobs. It might sound something like, "Hey, Hannah, it's Mario with Nooks. I was reaching out. I know we worked together at whatever the previous company was, and congratulations that you've now moved over to fill in the blank. We'd love to set up some time. I know you just got there, probably getting your feet wet, but we'd love to set up some time to see how we might be able to work with you at your new organization." Is that an example?
Perfect cold call right there.
I've done 1 or 2 in my time. All right, good. So, really serving up that intent data, and I think that's one of the big challenges is that you hit the nail on the head. The data is everywhere. Some of it is in LinkedIn, some of it is in Salesforce, some of it is in, new current news, and so as a rep, I'm constantly trying to figure out, "Okay, where do I go to be able to pull in the data about Hannah Wilson or about John Doe or about, Jane Smith," right? So whatever the case might be, and so really bringing that together and then serving up the ability to be able to make those calls are key. Um, I would also assume that this is important data for you to understand before sending that message. For example, maybe we have templatized messages,
Mhm.
but our job is to hyper personalize 1 or 2 of those messages, and then we want to use this key intent data. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So what you want to do is, obviously before you have a discovery call with someone, you want to make sure you have all that information in one place. When you're getting on a cold call, I mean, you have what, 10 seconds to try and get the person not to hang up. And so that's also really important. And then yes, can also help you customize an email too, because you want that email to be customized as well.
Got it. Okay. So let's say you are a brand new CRO. You're walking into a sales organization, or you're a CRO, CSO, and you've got a pipeline development problem. That's the setting. What's your personal playbook when you walk into an organization or an organization that's struggling with pipeline generation? What does that look like? What does the CRO, CSO do?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's one of the most important things I think a CRO needs to look at day one is, do we have enough pipeline? Like to me, in terms of scaling companies, pipeline has always been the limiting factor. Like you'll sometimes hear like, "Oh, we need to hire more." Yes, you need to hire more, but it always comes back really to pipeline. And so, unfortunately, there really isn't a one size fits all approach. If there was, I think we probably wouldn't we probably wouldn't have jobs. But the thing that I always think is really important is looking at it, breaking it down. So looking at it by both inbound and outbound, looking at it by segment, SMB, mid market, enterprise, and then you could really start to see where the problems are. Because maybe it's one segment is doing really well, or maybe it's, one channel is doing well. Our inbound is doing well, but our outbound is struggling. And that allows you to have a really targeted approach in terms of what you need to fix and how you should fix it. So I think that's one first and foremost is just looking at the data, looking at it by segment, looking at it by channel. Is it and if let's say it's something like outbound, is it because of calling? Is it because we're not going to the right events? Is it because we're not doing enough social selling? And then that drill down, you can game plan and action from there.
Okay. Now you've said something that I love. I love to talk about the social aspect of it of selling. Obviously, that's who we are. Yeah. One of the reasons that's where we came from. Sorry, that's where we came from. So let's talk about the um, adoption, best practices that you have seen and at work at Nooks or in previous roles in turning LinkedIn engagement into measurable pipeline or how about conversations, which leads to measurable pipeline development?
Mhm. Yeah, I think what I haven't seen work in the past is when it's more ad hoc. It's like leaving it up to SDRs to go do one-off things, or even if it's a company initiative, oftentimes you're just not doing enough. So as a company, you might say, okay, we're doing a campaign once a month, or we have this new targeted approach that we're going to do this month or this quarter. I think in this new world of selling, it's daily and it's a company initiative. And, there's things that we do at Nooks. And obviously for us, it's super important because this is where our buyers live. But this is true for many industries and many companies. There's literally things you can be doing every single day. It's company run initiatives by marketing. We do all sorts of campaigns, fun challenges. We do things that are serious in terms of the data that we're coming out with and the impact that we're making. And we do things that are fun that will appeal to SDRs and SDR leaders. We also encourage individuals to be authentic. I mean, you'll see some of our SDRs posting really authentic posts, whether they're making a cold call and they're struggling, or they're trying to make a cold call when they're sick, or, just things that are real and genuine to the individual. We really encourage people to do that. We encourage people to comment and engage with each other's posts. One of the things we've done recently that's been successful is really encouraging our customers to post about Nooks. They obviously have broad networks outside of our network. And so all those things, I mean, we see as soon as our LinkedIn engagement goes up, our inbound leads go up. And, I would definitely encourage folks if they're not doing this kind of strategy today, it really makes a big impact.
It's funny. I was just on a call with a prospect, and we were talking about LinkedIn engagement. And I said, one of the things that happened was for the last 4 weeks, you went kind of dark on me. Do you recall what I did to bring you back to the table? And he said, I'm not really sure where you're going. And I said, well, you recall last week, I tagged you on 2 different posts that I created. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I said, what did you do? He said, I liked it, which means I read it and I engaged with it. I said, you did. And then as soon as you liked it, literally, as soon as you liked it, I hit you up with an SMS and you said, I'm so sorry. Hey, great post, by the way. And I didn't mean to forget about you. Let's go ahead and schedule a meeting. And so I said, so the challenge that we see right now happening is that reps believe that when they go to, let's just say, Hannah Wilson's profile, the challenge that they believe is that, sorry, the challenge that they are seeing, excuse me, is when they go to your profile, they're going to read all of your posts. They then try to figure out which one they're going to comment on, and then they pick one and they stare at a white comment screen. And we did a time motion study, Hannah, for social engagement. And what we discovered was 85% of most reps were not posting content. 80% of reps were not engaging through commenting on buyers' posts. The 20% that did on comments, we actually did a time motion study. And what we discovered was from the time that I went to your profile, read all the different posts, and then wrote a comment, picked one and picked a post and wrote a comment, and then hit post, it was 6 to 12 minutes per customer per engagement. And that process was repeated time and time again. And so that's one of the reasons why we built Fly Engage was the ability to be able to read the post, click a button, and then AI would write for you. But it doesn't auto post. Now you're responsible for reading it, editing it. And then we recently just added in personal voice so that it'd be Hannah Wilson style comment, right? Or Mario Martinez style comment. And we took that process from 6 to 12 minutes down to less than 30 seconds. And that has been a huge win. And on top of that was the social posting as well. So get this, 85% of most reps didn't post content. Okay, why? Number one reason on the board, they didn't have the thought leadership experience and or it took too long. Number two reason. So we did a time motion study on that. And it came out that the average time it took for a rep to write a post was 32 minutes to write a post. Now, ChatGPT came along and people started using ChatGPT, and all of a sudden you start seeing in your LinkedIn newsfeed headlines, emoji in the front, emoji in the back, like a newspaper headline. And instantly, oh, ChatGPT wrote that, right? So that's when we said, all right, we got to do this better and we got to make this right. And so we built Fly Post, which is the ability to take any topic, or we just added, we can read any company blog. We'll read the company blog and we'll write a post and we'll go from 32 minutes down to 5 minutes because it takes only 15 seconds to write the social media post. And now you're editing. And so that's where we really start integrating now the skill behind the seller is as you're reading this post, think about Johnny, Susie, Mary, Billy, right? And tag them, mention them, and get that human engagement inside there. And so that's where we started really crossing over for the last couple of years. And I'm proud to say that prior to releasing these 2 elements, we, Fly Message, typed 1.1 billion characters with our AI writing and text expander. That would took us 25 months to do that. In 10 months after releasing, we typed another 1.1 billion characters. And now in the first 5 months of the year, We've actually written another 700 million more characters in just 5 months as a result of releasing that, plus our grammar, plus the AI writing component that we have as well. So bring it all together. It's been pretty awesome. And I think that's one of the missing elements is really reps connecting the I'm commenting, but there's a purpose for it. I want to add value to the conversation, and I want you to see me as a human so that when I make that phone call, Hannah's like, "Oh, I know Mario Martinez. How do I know him?" Right? Or another great one, I just happened to see Catherine Andruha message. I think you guys are gonna be speaking together at an event, right?
We are. Yes, we are.
And I just happened to see that she was speaking at going to be speaking at an event, and she said, "I'm gonna be speaking with Hannah Willson at Nooks," and I was like, "I know Hannah. I'm gonna be talking to her." I think it was yesterday, as a matter of fact, right?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, yesterday. So how cool is that when you're looking at that data and you're working with individuals and you're socially engaging, and now it's another touch point. And I think that's the missing element is the ability to connect and touch as a human. Thoughts on all of that?
I mean, just that resonates with me on so many levels. One, on a personal level, like I've obviously on LinkedIn a lot, and there's so many posts I want to comment, and I look and I'm like, I don't know what to say, and then I forget about it. I get pulled into something else, and then I never comment. And so I think that is so powerful. Plus, I totally agree with you. When I see people comment on my post, if it's just a like or a great work or something, that's kind of in one ear out the other. If I actually see a post from someone that's genuine, unique, something, something a little bit more than that. That is what actually grabs my attention. And you're right. Then if that person emails me or they call me or I see their name somewhere else, I'm so much more likely to engage in them. So yeah, I mean, I love what you all are doing. I think it's such a critical component.
So you and I are 100% aligned. Vengreso, the creators of Fly Message, and Nooks, the sales superpowers on speed dial, are 100% aligned in that it's not one channel, it's an omni-channel approach. And prospecting is about finding the channel that the buyer is in. It may be a call, it may be social, it may be email, it may be a video, it may be, and you fill in the blank. And what we need to be thinking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is how to humanize the conversation with data and insights so that it's not just another AI SDR like, "Hey, I saw it was 75 degrees in San Francisco. I hope you're enjoying the beach." Like, I don't live next to a beach, right? Not even close, right? Although it takes me 35 minutes, 40 minutes to go to San Francisco, but who wants to be inside the San Francisco beach? I don't know about you, but not me. Hawaii? Yes. San Diego? Yeah, absolutely. But I think if I summarize it in this way that we just talked about, are you in agreement that that is really the model and the playbook that leaders should be thinking about?
Yes, 100%. It's the only way to think about. I mean, now with how pervasive technology is, you have to be using both in tandem.
Now, I know we're coming up on time here. I have an interesting insight that I learned about your guys' team that was a surprise to me. And that was that you had more BDRs than you did AEs. Generally, it's either a 1-to-1 or most cases for most organizations, it's 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. I'm sorry, 2 AEs to 1 SDR or 3 AEs to 1 SDR. I was surprised to learn that you had a point whatever it is to one ratio. So tell me about that model. What insights led you to structure the team this way, and what outcomes have you seen as a result of that approach?
Yeah. I mean, I think most companies that I've been at, the way that I've always looked at how big your SDR team should be is exactly what you said. It's on a ratio approach. So we're like, do we want 2-to-1 in this segment, 1-to-1 on this segment, 3-to-1 on this segment? Which when you think about it, really isn't the right way to do it. Like you should be looking more at the fundamentals of like how much pipeline can you generate per SDR? And then how is that pipeline converting? And if those economics make sense, which I mean they do for Nooks, then and we're constantly monitoring them, of course, but, like, if that model holds true, then just hire more, like, there's no question about it, and so for us, I mean, we're unique because we're based on SDRs, our organization, so, we have SDRs making hundreds and hundreds of calls a day, they're highly productive, they get tons of opportunities, they're good opportunities for our sales team, and so for us, it has made sense to invest in our SDR organization. And, they're using technology to be even more productive than a typical SDR.
Fantastic. Well, the good news is you're doing great. You guys are doing awesome. Nooks has a great reputation in the industry, and I'm very excited that I had you on the show here. As we come up to a close here, if someone wants to get a hold of you, Hannah, what's the best way? I heard you say earlier you're on LinkedIn. Is it through LinkedIn, through email? What's the best way to say, hey, Hannah, I want more information. Can you help me?
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear from you. LinkedIn's probably the best place. Hannah Wilson. Yeah.
And if you're selling to Hannah, you'd be smart to have listened to this whole entire podcast and then to what she just said at the end. And when you send a personalized connection request to Hannah, you better say, I heard you on the Modern Selling podcast. Hannah, your insights about in 300 characters, and then at that point she knows that it was legit. Not that, hey, I heard you recently on the Modern Selling podcast. No, give her deep insights to what you heard her say that resonated with you. That's very important. And Hannah, last question I have for you. I always ask this of all my guests, and that is your all-time favorite movie. What is it?
Oh gosh. I don't know if I have an all-time favorite, but the one that gets me every time is Elf. Anything that yeah. I don't know. I just laugh through the whole thing every single time. I probably watched it 10 times and it still feels like the first time.
Will Ferrell plays that role. That was Will Ferrell, right?
Yeah, Will
Yeah.
Ferrell. Yeah.
He plays those roles just like Jim Carrey. I think, like, those roles, like, it's either Jim Carrey or Will Ferrell, like, those are the guys for those types of roles. They're always hilarious.
I know, I know. Yeah, I like all his movies, but for I don't know, for whatever reason, that one really gets me.
I love it. Well, there it is. Elf gets you. And that's an insight right there, sales team. If you're ever selling to Hannah Wilson, make sure you say, hey, Elf. Like mention something about Elf there. With that in mind, Modern Selling Nation, thanks so much for listening to this episode. Don't turn that dial quite yet. We've got this very important message for you right now.
Thanks for listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Please do me a huge favor and give the Modern Selling Podcast a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like to save 20 hours or more in a month and increase your productivity, go right now and download Fly Message, that's flymsg.io, for free. It's your free text expander and personal writing assistant. Hey, thanks for listening in, and until the next episode, good selling.